You open the phone for one thing and come away with 12 tabs of nothing. The message was already read. The video is already halfway done. The article is still there, waiting like it owes you something, and somehow you're already looking for the next thing before the first one has even started to matter. That is the whole problem, not a lack of interest, a habit of leaving. The strange part is how fast it starts. You pick up a show, skip the intro, glance at your messages, check a second app, and now the evening has the texture of shredded paper. Nothing is fully bad. Nothing is fully good. It all gets flattened by the next pull. I did this last week while trying to read a simple essay and somehow ended up organizing 3 folders on my laptop instead. The folders looked productive. They were just a better hiding place. Researchers at the University of Cambridge found something that explains the trap very clearly. The anticipation of an outcome produces a stronger response than the outcome itself. The pull toward the next thing is always stronger than the arrival. That is why ordinary life keeps losing. Not because it is empty, because your mind has been taught to reward the door instead of the room. And once that happens, a normal afternoon starts to feel thin. A half-finished book, dish left in the sink, a conversation that does not jump every 10 seconds. None of it is thrilling enough to compete with the promise of something else. So you reach for the next tab, the next clip, the next tiny burst of movement, and now the day has become a waiting room with no appointment. That is not a personality flaw. It is a trained appetite. You can see it in the way people hover over a task, like it might bite. They open the document, type 2 sentences, and then a little itch appears. Maybe there is a message. Maybe there is a better way to start. Maybe the coffee needs reheating. The laptop fan sounds like a guilty conscience. The work itself has not even had time to become hard, and already the escape route is open in another tab. The cost is not abstract. The project gets delayed until the useful energy has leaked away. The room gets cleaned in fragments and still looks unfinished. The email gets rewritten so many times that the original point disappears. Then the evening's gone, but nothing has actually landed. Fastest relief is the smallest refusal. Leave one thing open and do not feed the exit. That sounds almost too plain to matter, which is exactly why it matters. Because the problem is not that you need a better life, is that you keep interrupting the one you already have before it can deliver anything back. The first few minutes of any ordinary task are usually boring. That is the toll. You pay it or you stay outside. And the body learns the pattern before the mind admits it. You start to associate effort with the urge to switch. A song feels better than a spreadsheet. A scroll feels easier than a paragraph. A fresh item feels cleaner than finishing the old one. It is like carrying 3 shopping bags when one of them is already leaking. You keep changing hands, but the mess stays with you. Researchers at the University of Toronto found that switching between digital content made people more bored, not less. Over 50% switched because they were bored, and it made things worse. 7 experiments, over 1,200 participants. The limit here is simple. The study looked at digital switching, not every possible kind of distraction. Still, the point lands hard in real life. The thing you use to escape boredom can deepen it. That is the part people do not want to admit. The scroll is not a cure for the flat feeling. It is the machine that keeps making it. You can feel the loop in tiny daily disasters. You start a recipe and leave the pan heating while you answer messages. You return to the kitchen and the onions have gone from fine to scorched. You begin a work call, drift for a minute, and miss the one sentence that mattered. You click away from a long article to check something small, and the whole piece turns into a rumor. Each switch feels harmless. Together, they make your attention look like a room with too many doors. So the answer is not to demand more excitement from life. It is to stop asking life to perform on command. Pick one task and make it the only thing in the room. Not forever, just long enough for the first layer of boredom to pass. That layer is where most people quit. The screen goes dull. The draft feels clumsy. The exercise bike becomes a bike, not a miracle. And because the first minute did not sparkle, the hand reaches for a cleaner hit. That is the moment to stay put. Not because staying put is noble, because it is the only way the thing has a chance to become more than friction. The trouble is, modern attention has been trained to confuse motion with change. A new clip, a new thread, a new app. It feels like progress because the surface keeps moving, but nothing deep has shifted. You are just exchanging one unfinished thing for another, like stirring a pot every 10 seconds and wondering why dinner never gets a chance to settle. The human cost shows up everywhere. Dinner gets eaten cold because the phone arrived first. Sleep gets pushed because one more check became 40 more minutes. Friends sit across from each other, while one of them keeps glancing at a glowing rectangle. Then the evening ends with that foggy sense that the day was used but not lived. No single event caused it. It was the switching. And the cost is not only lost time, it is lost tolerance. The less often you stay with anything, the less capable you become of staying with anything. A book feels heavy. A meeting feels long. A conversation that slows down feels uncomfortable. Your own thoughts begin to seem like a room you're not sure you want to enter. That is why the boredom feels bigger than boredom. It It is the feeling of having weakened your own attention without noticing. A small reset helps, but it has to be concrete. Put the phone in another room while you finish one item. Not because the phone is evil, because distance is easier than willpower. If it is in your hand, the world is always one swipe away from becoming less demanding. If it is across the room, the task gets a fair hearing. A fair hearing is rare now. That is why it matters. Researchers at the University of Bath found that a 1-week social media break in a randomized controlled trial with 154 adults produced significant improvements in well-being, depression, and anxiety compared to the control group. Social media use dropped from 8 hours per week to 21 minutes. When the input stopped, the numbers moved. The limitation is worth saying plainly. This does not prove every person needs the same break or that 1 week solves everything. But it does show that when the stream goes quiet, people do not just miss the noise. They feel the difference in their lives. That should make a little room in your head, because the constant feed is sold as harmless background. Yet your mood notices when it disappears. And once you notice that, the ordinary world starts looking less broken. A sink full of dishes is not a crisis. It is a sequence. Folding laundry is not a waste. It is a task that ends. Waiting for water to boil is not dead time. It is just time before water boils. The problem is not that these moments became less meaningful. The problem is that your nervous system got used to faster rewards. That is why the old advice to just focus never lands. Focusing is not the first step. Tolerating the dull first stretches, stay in the chair when the first urge hits, and let the urge be there without negotiating with it. It sounds small, but this is where a life gets reclaimed in pieces. One uninterrupted walk. One article read to the end. One file completed without the comfort of a side quest. The day does not become magical. It becomes intact. And intact days are harder to manipulate. When you keep switching, the world controls the rhythm for you. Every notification gets to interrupt. Every new item gets to promise relief. Every tiny discomfort gets to decide the shape of your afternoon. You become available to everything and committed to nothing. That has a cost you can measure without a study. The work stretches. The dinner cools. The conversation thins out. The hour disappears, and you're left with that strange aftertaste of having been busy without being absorbed by anything. It is not that life failed to give you substance. It is that you kept sampling before the meal was served. The deepest part of this is also the most humiliating one. You're not bored because nothing is interesting. You are bored because you always leave before it gets good. That line is ugly because it is true. The first minutes are often the least rewarding. A task has to warm up. A person has to trust you. A thought has to unfold. A skill has to be awkward before it becomes useful. But if your reflex is always to reach for the next thing, you never get past the cold start. Keep mistaking the doorway for the whole house. So the real shift is not about chasing interest. It is about becoming the kind of person who can survive the first flat stretch without panicking. Leave the tab alone. Finish the page. Let the song play without skipping ahead. Let the room stay ordinary long enough to reveal itself. That is where the stolen attention begins to come back. And when it does, the day stops feeling like a buffet of fragments. It starts feeling like one thing at a time, which is all life ever was. You know the move now. It is the little hand reaching for the next tab before the first one has earned its keep.